Hey everyone, welcome back to AMS Live. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving week, and we're going to go ahead and start out this week with the issue paid annuities and IULs. So to start out with IULs on 11/27, we have Brigito G, 1,182, Christopher F, 2,515, Conrad P, 4,431, Gregory M, 285, Kenneth C, 3,324, Luis M, 563, Marcus R, 1,182, Robert B, 327, and Stacy M, 991, with a total of 14,800. And then for annuities, the week of 11/21 through 11/27, we have Toria M, 10,000, Lloyd W, 20,000, Eric J, 20,000, Georgina S, 20,907, Leona S, 22,206, Vanessa F, 24,040, Galen W, 25,321, Sean B, 25,902, Stephanie C, 26,669, Don S, 30,000, Tammy D and Don S, 30,000, Marco P, 49,681, Raymond D, 50,000, Derek D, 50,000, Daniel S, 50,000, Long S and Brito G, 53,990, Jonathan W, 57,292, Marcus M, 57,369, Pamela M, 66,218, Peter C, 70,000, Raymond D, 70,352, Amy M, 70,641, Wayne C, 71,354, Michael S, 111,290, Chris C, 112,233, John N, 122,731, John G, 132,243, Amy M, 133,976, Chadwick S, 138,150, Vincent C and David Allen, 173,394, David A, 184,817, Ali K, 189,692, Greg C, 200,000, Matthew S, 200,000, Jose R, 250,000, Chris C, 283,909, and Millie P, 457,798, for a weekly total of 3,662,187. That was a big week and a long list, but awesome job, everyone. That was a super high issue paid week for us. And then we're going to move on to the monthly promotions, and we're going to start with the 10 agents who passed the 100K level. You guys were all promoted to the yellow level, and that is Robert N., Michael K., Zachary G., Vincent C., John B., Daniel H., Ali K., Edward P., Winter P., and Richard B. And then for the 3 agents who passed the 500K level, you have been promoted to blue, and that is Chris C., Robert B., and Blaine B. We have 1 agent who passed the $1 million mark. Congratulations to Jonathan W. You've been promoted to the silver level. And then lastly, we have 1 agent who passed the $2 million mark and was promoted to gold, and that's Milagros P. And that is all the promotions for this week. So great job, everyone, and let's just finish out this 4th quarter strong. Hey, I'm Lauren Jackson here with Sean Ruggiero for the Q&A section of AMS Live, and we're going to go ahead and start off with the first question from Paige, which is, what is the underwriting like for an IUL, and how do you know if your client will qualify health-wise?
Good question, Paige, and I think Paige has given us a couple of questions over the past few weeks, so we appreciate that. Mm-hmm. So underwriting, a lot of what we sell at Family First Life is simplified issue business, right? Mm-hmm. Stuff that is using an MIB, a Medical Information Bureau, and a prescription check, and there is no blood, urine, anything like that. IULs, until recently, are a little bit different. Most IULs are fully underwritten. So how long will it take? Well, I think your average fully underwritten policy, and this can seem like a long time, but I think a month, all right? And the reason I say that is because it's about getting the client to do certain things, to get a physical exam. And if you need questions about that, all your managers do know how to get those scheduled. We have various field companies. It doesn't cost the client anything. So Lauren, if you're applying for an IUL, you want to put $500 a month in it, you're young, you want to accumulate income, tax-free income for later on in life. You have to have a paramed, and so they're going to come to your office or to your home and get you weighed. You're going to pee in a cup. They're going to draw some blood. I usually pass out, so use a couch. But if you're on that, if you say, sure, here we go, I'm ready, and you take the call from the paramed and you do it within 48 hours, that speeds it up a lot. Then there's oftentimes what's called an attending physician statement, where the physician has to say, here's some of the here's an assessment, and I don't know the details of it with HIPAA, but they're handing stuff off from the attending physician statement. That can take a long time, or it can be fast. So I hate to give you such a vague answer, but sometimes it's as fast as 2 weeks, sometimes it's a month. Now, part of your question is, how do you know what they're going to qualify for? If you're asking the question, so Lauren, you're healthy, but let's say you weren't. Let's say you were taking certain medications, and in fact, medications that might be a bit odd for someone who's in their 20s. That could raise some red flags. You should definitely do what's called a risk assessment. So you call the carrier, it's like Global Atlantic, and you ask for risk assessment. So you just call them up, say, may I speak to risk assessment? And you explain, I have a 27-year-old or
something like that.
Yeah, who is taking XYZ medications. Her BMI, body mass index, is good. What would my risk assessment be? And they'll tell you. They'll say, oh, she'll be standard, or she might be preferred, or she might be a table 2. And then you can use the software to decide if that's going to work for the client. Okay. So risk assessment, and anywhere up to a month for underwriting. So why would we do fully underwritten and not simplified issue? It's if someone really is diligently after maximizing those dollars and wants to really get maybe a larger policy, maybe a policy that's $1 million, a policy that putting thousands of dollars in a month for accumulation. That's when we're going to look for a fully underwritten policy. If it's lower amounts of death benefit or monthly premium, then we really don't need to be going fully underwritten. And in fact, we kind of have the best of both worlds now, and we're talking about today on the AMS with the new IUL Express from Mutual of Omaha. So it's the traditional underwriting you're used to, totally non-med. Issues like the recent ones, we've had 8 issue in our first week, and they issue in about 24 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, very, very awesome. So, if you're looking at, and I'll be talking a little bit later on about the IUL Express from Mutual of Omaha, that's one that unless you really need that $500,000, $1 million face value, or someone's plumping in, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, I would actually look to the IUL Express from Mutual of Omaha and avoid that underwriting time.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for the input.
Yep.
And then we have one more question. This one is an annuity question from Edwin. And we see these a lot in annuities. And so some people maybe just aren't sure what they mean or what they stand for. But he's just simply asking, what is an RMD?
Yep. Okay. Good question. RMD, or required minimum distribution. Qualified money, not to act too complicated, but under section 401C of the IRS code is where they designate, since like 1980, I think it's been, all these rules about what makes qualified money. So how are people going to retire? Lauren, way back in 1930, we said, let's set up something. And the government, headed by President Roosevelt, set up the idea of Social Security, and it's the old person's income is what it's actually called. It's kind of a funny word for it. But if you're going to retire someday and you need to make money while you're retired, but you can no longer go out in the workforce, think of like 1930 type workforce. You need to have some money. So they started Social Security Administration to handle that, as well as a few other things. The average person only lived to like 69 years old back then. Now people are living in their 80s and 90s on a regular basis. So we have Social Security, but they knew this was going to be a problem. So they started in 1980 legislation to work in other pieces of retirement preparation, and those pieces are what fall under the qualified funds rule. So we think of a 401k, that's the most common one, IRAs. Yep. So let's look at that money. That money you get to put in, you have an option to put it in tax deferred. So you're getting paid X dollars, Lauren, and you say, I want to take some of that money, not take it now, take it later, is essentially what you're saying. So it's tax deferred. It's tax deferred for her and for the employer. And that money keeps growing tax deferred. Now, 2 brackets or bookmarks or bookends that bracket that money, that qualified money. The first one is the 59.5. So with most qualified funds, if you're 59.5 or younger, okay, and you take that money out, you're subject to a 10% penalty. Now, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, it's not there for you just to grow tax deferred and take it out when you want. They're going to penalize you 10% plus anything you take out is income tax.
Yep.
All right. So they do that because, Lauren, they don't want you to save up that money, get the tax deferred advantage, and then just spend it. It's literally trying to help supplement Social Security.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for, because they
Help you
realize.
save for retirement.
Yep,
not
exactly.
Liquidate that account when you're 20.
Yeah. And how many companies even offer pensions anymore? Very few. So those rules are important. Now, on the back end of that is the RMD, the rule for 70 and a half. So the year you turn 70 and a half, by April 1st of the following year, you have to take out a certain amount, meaning you have to pay yourself that so they can collect the tax.
Yep.
From that year forward, from the subsequent years after that, it's due by December 31st of the following year. There's actually a table. So if you go into the FFL AMS under marketing, I think it is, there's the brochures.
Yep.
Do I have that correct?
Yep.
The Understanding Retirement trifold is a great trifold that has the RMD qualifications and breakdown. The first divisor is 26.4. Not to complicate it, but if you had $100,000, what's 100,000 divided by 26.4? 2,640, right?
Yep.
So you would have to pay yourself 2,640, and every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, if you're living well in your 80s, your RMD can be over 5%. That you have to take out. So that's what an RMD is. It's a rule for qualified money that says after you reach a certain age, the government doesn't want you to defer that tax forever. We do need to pay for wars and roads and welfare and all those things. No political innuendo intended. I'm just saying there's government things that they have to pay for, and they do that through taxation. So if you're holding on to this money that's tax deferred, by 70 and a half, you have to pay taxes on the money, so you have to pay yourself and send off whatever taxes are due.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I hope that answers your question, Edwin, and that wraps up our portion of the Q&A this week. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and email them to info@fflams.com, and we'll get them answered on the next AMS Live episodes. Thanks.
Hey everyone, Sean Ruggiero, Family First Live, Advanced Market Sales. Thanks for joining us here on Facebook. I'm going to talk to you about something that you're going to be able to find on the FFL AMS site, but it's a great resource that we've developed, and we developed it for a reason. Annuities are a fantastic offering. They're a fantastic offering for the clients, which we help, okay? They eliminate fees, they eliminate downside market risk, they eliminate worry. They're a fantastic tool for you as agents out there trying to feed your families, trying to build your business. Why? Because they pay you very handsomely. They are the second half of our counterpunch, right? They're the two to the one. They're the yin to the yang. I can't stress it enough. If you're out there trying to conduct this business and selling just life insurance, just simplified issue life insurance, you're not working to the best of your ability. You need to be adding in annuities. Some of the cool things about annuities is the average commission is over $7,000. The chargeback rate is very, very, very low. Very few annuities charge back for whatever reason. But they have a little bit of an uphill battle too, and that has to do with when we go to transfer them. So let me paint a scenario which probably makes sense to a lot of you if you've dabbled or written annuities. You sit down with a client, you mention to them that you can help protect their financial capital. You ask them how much money can they afford to lose. They say none. And you go ahead and write up an annuity, let's say $150,000 for a fixed index annuity, whatever the product might be. They call you a week later. They say, stop everything. I'm not going to proceed. What happened? Okay, what happened in many situations was their financial advisor called them, and that financial advisor might not have any relationship with them. They might just be going through the standard checklist of how to try to derail an annuity or anyone who's going to try to take money away from their assets under management. Or maybe a relative spoke to them, right? But whatever it is, something derailed that. I always use Matt Smith. He's the #1 producing annuity agent in the history of Family First Life. I always use his analogy that if he's closing 1 out of 3 annuities that he writes, he's on fire, okay? If he's closing 1 out of 4, that's probably on par. So he loses them along the way, but he's gotten much, much better. We've gotten better. What have we done? Well, we've learned how to prepare the client. How to prepare the client. So now what we've created here at the AMS team is a 4-section checklist to have the client initial upon writing the annuity application, which is going to double the amount of annuities that stick for you. Will it eliminate all annuities being canceled? No, but it's going to increase your percentages by 100% that the person sticks with the annuity. So I'm going to go over that checklist today. Very, very helpful stuff. First, where is the checklist located? Well, if you go to the fflams.com, that's fflams.com. If you haven't registered, you can do so here. Otherwise, you log in. If you need any help, you can watch the Getting Started guide or contact support right there from the website. You're going to log in. You're going to see your profile plus your tabs across the top. We're going to go to the Resources tab, and you can see under Downloadable Portable Document Formats, you're going to see Client Departure Checklist. This one right here. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and you can download it from here. So this client departure checklist is what we're going to use. There are 4 sections. Now here's what I advise you to do. I advise you to get this checklist, print it out, have it with your packets, with your client worksheet. Okay, just make it a standard thing that you have and that you carry with you. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to read it. Read it 2 or 3 times, understand it. When you convey it to the client, I'm not necessarily saying you read it line for line, although you can. That's what it's there for. But you need to be able to understand it to interpret it, okay? I'm going to read through one part specifically. The other parts, I'm going to explain it as if I were explaining it to a client. And in order to do that, I need to know what it says. So print it out, have it available, and then the second thing to do is read it. And then the third thing to do is practice. Practice as if you were presenting to a client. But here are the 4 basic sections, okay? So I'm sitting down with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we have completed the annuity application. Remember, we have to get you suitable. Once suitable, there's a couple things that you should expect. First, transfer of funds, okay? This application is submitted with the expectation that you are going to be suitable, if I'm doing my job correctly, all right? And then in this case, this is qualified money. So let's say that we're working with a former 401k or an IRA with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm going to talk to them about the transfer of funds. So in this transfer of funds section, again, read it so you understand it. I'm going to give them the highlights. I'm going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, what this is called a qualified rollover or a direct custodial transfer. Don't get confused by the lingo, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It just means that the IRS, which is up here, is going to have the money that they recognize being with your current company is going to shift. In this case, we're going to send it over to Athene, or whatever the annuity company is that we chose. And now Athene reports to the IRS. That's called a custodial duty, okay? You might get, and it says it right here, okay, your current company by law has to give you a disclaimer. It says, be very careful. This could have great tax implications, all right? Well, that's true if it was mishandled. It's not being mishandled. It's going from one custodian to another. And by law, they have to disclose this. Be careful, all right? But they also use it as kind of a scare tactic. Don't move your money. This could have grave consequences. There could be grave tax implications. We've got it handled. This is all part of the transfer process. We transfer millions and millions of dollars every single week, okay? So we know what we're doing. So just to let you know, that's how it works. Go ahead and initial here. The next section, company research, okay? Now this one I'm going to read for you. All right, because I think it's pretty valuable to understand. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, financial rating entities like Moody's, AM Best, and Fitch are reliable resources who are equipped to determine a company's financial standing, such as Athene, the company which we have chosen for your annuity needs. These entities, that is Moody's, AM Best, Fitch, they audit financial companies and report their findings to the public. Okay, the carriers that we can contract with, such as Athene, all carry an A rating or higher. That means that they have an excellent standing. That means that they're going nowhere. They literally have as good a standing as you could possibly get. Okay, unfortunately, consumers sometimes look to things like the Better Business Bureau when researching a company. Please understand that the BBB does not review financial strength or audit company financials. They're really blind. They use a pay-per-pay method, essentially. Okay, so therefore they're not considering an accurate review or representation, good or bad, of a financial company. So please don't fall into the Better Business Bureau mafia and look to them for financial reviews. If you want to look for the reviews of a financial company, look to financial review companies such as Fitch, AM Best, or Moody's. And those, if you look online, you'll find that the company we have selected is an A company. Excellent. All right. And see how we want to cut that off? We want to bring this up ahead of time. And there's a supplemental resource on the FFL AMS. In fact, I will show you. There's a supplemental resource that says how to combat negative reviews from Athene. Okay, and this talks about some of the history and how this small book of actual life insurance, not annuities, got caught in servicing upon the purchase of the Aviva purchase and Aviva North America purchase. Sounds really complicated. It's right here. You can supply this to a customer if they ever saw anything bad online. The truth is this. The truth is the Better Business Bureau is a racket. I'm saying that. You don't hear me slander anyone. The Better Business Bureau is a racket. It is not a place where a client should be going for financial strength, for reviewing what a company is. So head that off. Direct them from the get-go that the Better Business Bureau is not the place to look. Because here's what's going to happen, and I've done this personally. I just sold an annuity a couple weeks ago, and I said, hey, for the record, here's why we chose Athene, and she had someone who she allowed to be in there. This is her fiance, and he was very skeptical, right? It was kind of his job, his role, so I allowed him to be skeptical. And I said it like this. I say, now, as you know, and I'm going to call him Bob, so as you know, Bob, the Better Business Bureau is a racket, right? They are not good for financial ratings. I would suggest you pick Moody's, Fitch, AM Best, whichever one you prefer, if you'd care to research the company that I've chosen. But it is a legal reserve company that is registered in your state, has $1 of liability, has $1 of liquid reserves for every $1 of debt, and is a legal entity to do business here, and it also falls under the state guarantees. So I directed him right there, and what's funny is he was going to mention something about the Better Business Bureau, but I headed it off, and I gave him the information, because the reality is this: we're not trying to direct people towards things that are misleading. We're trying to keep people away from things that are misleading, such as the BBB. So we headed off right there. So that's section number 2. So go ahead and initial there, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Number 3, your financial advisor. Okay, most people are going to have some financial advisor, whether they have a relationship with them or not, that they've been working with. And this is the key. This is the one that's going to help us so much, so tremendously increase the amount of business that we write, stick, and stay on the books. Okay, people want to be in the know. People don't want to be caught off guard. So we are going to be preemptive, and we're going to explain to them up front that their financial advisor is not going to want them to do this. So I'll read this one. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, your financial advisor may advise you against moving your money. Now read between the lines. They will. If they call you, it's because they think this is something you shouldn't do. All right? Most financial advisors are paid and valued based on what's called assets under management, or AUM, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Since giving this money to the annuity company won't count towards their AUM, they're most likely going to be reluctant to lose it. In many instances, your advisor will call you and attempt to dissuade you from moving the money. Remember, FIAs, what we have chosen, offer the ability to eliminate fees, eliminate market risk, and provide lifetime income. To be frank, if your advisor had a product like that, they would already have offered it to you. It tells you something about that, right? We suggest you be prepared for this and simply tell them that you have made up your mind and to please comply with the transfer request. Do you see how powerful that is? Please initial here, okay? If they have any issues and questions, they can bring it up right there. But you have educated them. Everyone wants to be in the know. Everyone. I joke sometimes with people I know, friends of mine, that, for example, Thanksgiving. We had family in town. Everybody wants to say something of knowledge. So they hear something on Facebook or on sports radio, and they say, gosh, the Seahawks have really struggled with their O-line. Okay, I'm giving you an example. Can you name one O-lineman? Can you name where we drafted them from? What round we drafted them? How many O-linemen started last year? How they compare? Do you see what I'm saying? How many All-Pros do we have? They don't know a darn thing about the Seahawks offensive line, right? Your average fan knows who Russell Wilson is. That's about it, okay? Heck, half of them think that Richard Sherman still plays on the team. I'm not trying to go too far down the path of this football analogy, but that's how it is. That's how we are. We see something on Facebook. We see something on Fox News, and we just regurgitate it. Why? Because we just want to be in the know. It's human nature, okay? It can be a little nauseating sometimes, but it's human nature. So put them in the know. See, arm them with this. Now when the financial advisor calls, they're going to be like, yeah, see, I knew you were going to say that. Isn't that crazy how just that juxtapositioning, that changing from being on the defense to the offense, makes all the difference in the world. See, we're going to talk to them about the Better Business Bureau. We're going to talk to them about their financial advisor not wanting to move this. And let's face it, if they had this product, they would have offered to you, but they won't because they want to keep this as assets under management. So please, initial here. Finally, just a little housekeeping, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, contract and free look. Once your policy has been issued, I will deliver the contract to you. You have 10 to 30 days, depending on the state, for what's called a free look period. So during that time, you can cancel this, you can move your money if nothing has changed, or we can edit it however you see fit. See, so we are protected down this path here. This is very regulated, okay, and safe journey as we go and move your money to a fixed index annuity to protect that financial capital, safely grow it, provide lifetime income, eliminate fees, eliminate downside market risk, whatever it is that their hot button was. So I hope this helps. Remember, go to fflams.com. If you need any help finding this or getting registered, please email info@fflams.com. Have this with you, use it, memorize it, do yourself a favor. You're going to gain that confidence, and you're going to imbue that confidence into your clients after you write these annuity applications. All right, everyone, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Chadwick Strelchuk with Family First Life Texas and Family First Life Lone Star. In a few minutes, I'm going to go over how I was able to uncover a little over $250,000. Now, first, I just want to give credit where it's due. Big thanks to Sean Mike for just starting this amazing company that's truthfully puts the clients first, along with the agents and their families. Big thanks as well to Sean Ruggiero and Bridget, also to Keith Christmas and Christina Barkley for always answering all the questions I have when it comes to annuities, retirement accounts, things like that. We are so fortunate to have 4 quadrants in this business with final expense, mortgage protection, IULs, and then fixed index annuities. It's just the content is there, the agents are there that are really good at this. So I encourage you to reach out to those kind of people, because if you don't, then we're only doing a disservice to ourselves and our growth. But I want to kind of start off with the lead and then go into the appointment. So the lead, actually, it was believe it or not, it was a Facebook lead, which that's going to happen. Just because you have a lot of these people that are in retirement age, 60 to 85, when you're doing Facebook, that they probably do have a old stock, bond, mutual fund, IRA that's kind of just sitting around. So this lady, it was my last appointment on a Saturday, and I'm not gonna lie, I was tired. I wanted to cut out for the evening, but I was like, hey, it's the last appointment. Let's just finish her up. It's 45 minutes away. So get into the appointment. The lady, she was pretty set. She did have a lot of different kinds of life insurances. So I was like, shoot. So like at that moment, it was like I could have either just packed my bag, went on my way. But I was like, hey, let's, this is just kind of also, I want to just help agents with, just digging in more. You hear it all the time. Whoever asks the most questions wins. Definitely a firm believer of that. But just ask a few more questions. Built a little more credibility with her. I kind of waited a little bit longer to ask the golden question. Hey, do you have anything that acts like life insurance that would go to your beneficiary, like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, IRAs, CDs, anything like that? And she had a particular stock that was losing money. She had for the past 4 years. It was like at 131,000, and it just up down. It didn't grow at all. It was maybe lost a little bit of money, but it did nothing literally in 4 years. So at 70 years old, she was 70. Know your client. How much of this can you afford to lose? At 70, it's like, hey, this is like, I found out what her big why was, and what her, what was really important to her was her son, leaving her son, with a decent amount of funds. So I just asked her, I said, hey, if I can show you something that whenever the market's doing well, it'll participate with, but if there's any kind of losses, your funds will stay locked in. At your age, you're 70 years old. We can't be playing around with this. We gotta protect this money. And she agreed. Said, let me get an illustration. I'll come back next week, and then we'll go over it. Of course, it's got to pass your suitability to the state of Texas for it to be a good fit for you and your loved ones. And she agreed. So came back the next week, went over everything, super happy. So we took care of that one. That was about $131,000. Couple weeks later, went by and just did some follow-up work with her. And we just into the conversation, built that trust, built that good communication with her, and into the conversation. 20 minutes into it, she tells me, literally, it falls into my lap. Hey, Chadwick, I have this $123,000. It's in a savings. It's not doing anything. I'd like to put it in something like we did with my $131,000. I said, cool, perfect. So the neat thing too with that Agility 10 is that it was able to bonus her as well too. It was a 20%. So that was able to, put over $20,000 right off the rip. So she was ecstatic with that. But anyways, yeah, just showing grit in the house. Don't give up, even if you think that there's nothing there. There's nothing there, keep asking the questions. I'm a big firm believer whenever I'm sitting down with somebody and I can't help them out with final expenses, or maybe they have something and they're really, the situation just is really good. If I feel it in my heart that or that the conversation is just really good, like, hey, let's see what else we can help you out with. So, just because one sale or one opportunity isn't there, take a deep breath and, reassess the situation and go into a different route. That $15 route ended up being a $15 lead, and that change in my mindset turned it to a little over $251,000. Got the check yesterday for the 123 cashier's check. So, hey, it's always an opportunity. But anyways, have a great rest of your evening, and God bless y'all, and thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Sean, for having me on the Advanced Market Sales Call. Today, I wanted to cover 5 different tips to prepare the money being transferred from a current brokerage account or financial advisor. Number 1 is it all starts with making sure they're aware that the money will be transferred immediately. The second thing is I always, when I sit down with a client in a home, I'm always going over every single aspect of pros and cons to purchasing this fixed index annuity. And I put it on a bullet point. Like, I go over what indexing looks like, making sure they're aware that they have safety of principal on this specific annuity, no fees. Making sure that they understand that there's participation rates, like 1 year point to point is 40%, the 2 year point to point is 65%. So they don't get safety of principal and no fees because without some sort of cost, meaning they're not going to retain the whole upside of that Janus fund, for example, with Performance Elite Series or any other type of Athene growth annuity without some sort of cost. Now, there's not a true cost as far as fees, but they're not going to get the full upside of that account. Once you start to explain those things to your clients, they'll understand why it's not too good to be true. Also, making sure you prepare them against, you can only access 10% penalty free. I've always thought that's been a good thing because if you could access more than that, you'd run out of money very quickly. But they need to understand that if there's a 7-year or a 10-year surrender period where if you took out more than 10%, they'll pay like a 9% penalty in year 1 or 9% in year 2, 8% in year 3, those types of things. So I go over those and I put those bullet points on that, just a 1-page form with their driver's license. We both sign the form. I say you understand and you're comfortable and you're happy with the purchase of this fixed index annuity. You understand that the money is going to be moved immediately, and it meets their financial needs in their current situation. I always have them sign that form just so it's on one piece of paper that we discuss. It's outside of all the disclosures or illustrations that we're using in the sales process, but I think it's extremely important. The next thing I would tell you is you need to prepare them to make sure that they're aware that there could be a third-party form that we may need to get signed with their current company. So that we may need to most of the time a transfer form will work, the one signed from Athene. Most of the time, I'd say probably at least 80% of the time. But probably 20% of the time there could be an internal transfer form that we need to sign, or we might need to get a medallion signature at their current bank, and that's like a notary stamp for financial documents that you get signed at the bank. So making sure that there's not an extra step there is crucial for the money transferred. A lot of times that is a very effective tool for agents is getting on the phone with the client together and making sure they can liquidate the account. There's no additional transfer forms that are needed. That's a very effective tool. Those are extremely important. The next thing I would say is always go over the financial strength with Athene. So here we are, $125 billion in assets. They're an A-rated company. They're founded in 2009. They're traded on the NASDAQ. They're number 2 in the cold nation for fixed index annuities. They have some products, according to the Barron's report, that are number 1 in the country. So there's a reason why they're rising fast to the number 1 spot in the country. One thing I love to point out is they've got a 94% customer satisfaction rating. That means 94% of their clients are extremely happy with their retirement accounts for Athene. That is a difficult thing to have across the board. So make sure you point out those things, and then also make sure you point out some cons about Athene. So, for example, in 2015 and 16, they purchased Aviva Financial, and when they did that, there was about 700,000 policyholders that came over to Athene. Well, amongst that, what happened is probably 30 clients could not access their money soon enough in that transfer period. So there was a lot of people that got upset because they couldn't access their money. They were able to access some money later, but there's some bad press on Athene in 2015 and 16. If you address these things up front and you eliminate objections up front, you won't see them creep back on the backside. So if you talk about participation rates, if you talk about surrender charges, if you talk about 10% liquidity, they're very much aware of what they're getting into, and they understand why they're purchasing those things. The next thing is you need to make sure that you really drill down their why. So understand what the money is for, understand when they need the money, and understand what type of money. Is it qualified or non-qualified accounts? And I think when you start to drill down and go over those things, I think you'll really see that your results drive up. So again, the 5 things are: make sure they understand the money is going to be transferred immediately. Make sure they are aware of any third-party forms. Make sure you go over financial strengths about Athene as well as any cons that we spoke about. Make sure you talk about those participation rates. Make sure you talk about surrender charges. Make sure you talk about liquidity. Make sure that you drive home why we are doing this fixed index annuity. Make sure they're happy and it meets their financial needs. And I think once that transfer starts to come, you'll really start to have much better results. So those are some tips. I hope that helps. I appreciate being on the call. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.